Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to the Go-To training. It's me, John Morton, your instructor again, and everyone can hear and see my screen. Is that correct? Yes, wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, we're going to be going over the integrative learning activity for week one. I think there may have been some confusion. I had some questions after class, but I wanted to go through all of that just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Um, there will be a difference between week one and the rest of the weeks. For all of the, for week 2, 3, and 4, the weekly plan is actually going to be in the discussion board. It will be part of the discussion board post. You are welcome to start posting in the discussion board for week one. You can make the post of your weekly plan in the discussion board, or you can make it separate in the integrative learning activity. Either way is fine. I just want everyone to, one way or the other, make sure that that gets posted. So again, we're here during the Go-To training. Perfect, wonderful. Everyone's where they're supposed to be. If you haven't done the E3 assessment, make sure that you get on that. Like I was saying in class yesterday, it's a pretty interesting assessment. I think it has some unique insights it can provide. Hopefully, give you a little bit of direction in terms of maybe things things that are working, things that could be working better, or things that you don't know about yourself. Like I had mentioned yesterday, I got a lot out of doing the E3 assessment. It gave me some insights into how I can, be a better leader, be a better teacher, work better with my peers and with the students I work with. So check that out. And then right here we have the weekly plan. I think that everyone should be pretty clear on the weekly plan. I have the picture of it right here, so everyone should be able to see that. I had a lot of questions after class, so I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. So for the first section, it says work, daily priorities. That is a place where you can put schoolwork, work you need to get done around the house, chores you have, errands you need to run, pretty much all of your basic adulting that needs to happen. So, if you need to go, have your utilities switched on, if you need to, go purchase money orders to pay rent, whatever those things look like, that is what we're looking for. Grace, you say I re-downloaded that file a few times, and each time it took the format away. Is it okay if I do it without the table? I'd really prefer it if you did it with the table. What I would recommend doing is touching base with FSO support. They'll be able to get that figured out for you. It might just be an issue with having Word on your computer. You might not have it. You might have a different version. But I touch base with FSO support. They'll be able to get you squared away on that front. So right. 3 priorities for each day. I would recommend putting your assignments in there. Anything that needs to get done, put them all in there. I think this is a really good habit to get into. I use a calendar for a lot of things, but I similarly make a schedule. I keep a lot of lists just so that I remember the things I need to do. What I'd say about that is if you make the schedule and you genuinely put some thought and effort into it, you need to go back and check it. You can print it out at the library if you want. I believe there's free printing there. But go back and reference it. Maybe even take a screenshot and set it as your background for the week and say, okay, did I get all these things done? Have I completed all these tasks? Making a schedule just for the exercise is fine and dandy, but it doesn't really do you a lot of good unless you go back and you reference it and you look and you check to see, hey, have I gotten everything done? Hey, today's Thursday. This is a turn-in deadline for me. have I, gotten things done that I need to have turned in by Thursday? So all of your discussion board posts, FYI, is due on Thursday. So make sure that you have your discussion board initial post done. Um, on Sunday, you should probably, hopefully, have gotten your other assignments turned in ahead of then. But if you haven't, kind of look at Sunday and say, all right, I need to get everything done that I haven't gotten done already. I need to make sure I've left feedback for my peers. I need to make sure that my test is done for the week. Um, my real hope is that you haven't waited that long to do the readings, because if you have, your discussion board is likely going to be lacking. If you haven't read about class topics, because the discussion board asks you to discuss course concepts. On that topic, just real quick, I'm gonna open up our readings. If you'll just bear with me for a moment. So when you're going through the readings, you'll see the course concepts. The course concepts are here. They're the bolded text. In the discussion, you're almost always going to be asked to discuss two course concepts, and what I'm looking for in that discussion is, you could use, time batching. You could say, hey, here's time batching, and here's, a definition. Here's how it works. A definition means I don't want you to write exactly what it says on the reading. I want you to paraphrase it. So take what it says, put it into your own words. Let me know that you have an understanding of what it is. So I'm looking for that. You should identify it. Say, here's what I'm going to talk about. Here's a definition of it in my own words. And then here's an example. The example is, going to be something from your life, something, a way that you can use it. The definition, however, should not be something from your life. You shouldn't say, time batching is when I do X, Y, and Z. You should say time batching is, doing these things, but should not include you. So if there's any confusion on that, if you've put I or me into the definition, you're a lot more likely to be talking about an example than you are a definition. So just kind of keep that in mind. Identify, define, and give example of for your course concepts. Some course concepts have multiple things in them, or they're slightly longer. I don't want you to pick two ideas from within one concept. I'd like you to discuss two separate course concepts in your discussion board. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're moving forward. So, this reading has time batching, we have peak performance, multitasking. I will tell you that every month people do not read the multitasking reading, but then they write about multitasking and they miss the mark based on what the reading says. So if you are going to write about multitasking, please make sure that you have a full, comprehensive understanding of multitasking as described in the reading. Just kind of keep that in mind. You can see sometimes, again, there's confusion. You see it says multitasking, and below it says multitasking in the brain. Multitasking is the course concept. This is more of a sub-concept. So if you were talking about multitasking, within that conversation, you could talk about multitasking in the brain. But I would want you to discuss another concept as well. You can kind of tell if you look, these are all, again, too much switching, effects on productivity, overcoming the myth. These are all sub-concepts within multitasking overall. You can tell if you look at the font, the size, and I guess it's just the size. They're all bold. You can tell from that it's that they're all within one concept. So you'd want to make sure, again, you're discussing two concepts that are unrelated to one another, not a concept and a sub-concept, or two sub-concepts. You want to discuss two whole and separate concepts. If you have any confusion about it, pick one from each reading. There's two readings. Some weeks have three readings. Pick one concept from each reading, and that way you'll definitely know you aren't falling into that trap. So right, that's what I'm looking for as far as the discussion board goes. Sorry, the rest of the integrative hours, I'm sorry. So rewind, we'll go back to the weekly plan. Um, Weekly plan and an initial discussion board posts due Thursday. Play activities, I think everyone's pretty clear on. Fitness, wellness, push activities, I think everyone's pretty clear about those. At the bottom, there's 2 questions. Make sure that you're answering them with detailed paragraphs. What's your experience with goal setting? Talk about it in several sentences. It says 5 to 6, 4 to 6 is fine. But if you write one sentence, it will not be enough. All right. Similarly, just go through the rest of the weekly plan with that. And coming back over to our integrative learning hours. So right, we complete our weekly plan. We put that up in the discussion board, or you can post it here. Either way is fine, as long as it shows up one place or the other. So right, post your weekly plan, and then respond to your classmates. You're going to respond to at least one classmate. You can respond to multiple classmates. If you want to make sure that you're responding to them in a good way, you can use the RISE model for giving feedback. That's one way to ensure you're giving great feedback. I would recommend that. The virtual lecture, here we are. If you want to come back and review this, you can. There'll be a link in here. E3 assessments there. Yep, and the work, play, fit, push schedule and discussion boards. Does anyone have any questions about any of this? Sorry, I realize it's just me rambling for a long time. If you have questions, I can unmute you. If you want, there's a hand raising icon. You can raise your hand. I can talk to you, or you can ask questions. Similarly, you can type them into the chat box. Anyone at all? Is anyone there? Can you hear me? Oh, okay, wonderful. Yes, you have a question. Go ahead, please. I just wanted to make sure no one was talking, so I wanted to make sure everyone was still there. Wonderful. Michelle, you said you had a question. Are you typing feverishly? Ah, yes, you are. When we reply to a student, we'll have to use the RISE feedback for what exactly? I'm a bit confused. I'm sorry, the RISE model for giving feedback it's a model for giving feedback. You don't have to use it, but it's a great way to use that. Let me see, I believe that it's here in the discussion board. I believe, give me just a moment, I'll open that up for you to see. So right, so in our discussion board, we're going to be answering these questions. We can make our response post. So right, with our response post for the discussion board, excuse me, for the discussion board portion of it, you can use your RISE model right here for giving feedback. So make sure that you're responding. So it's reflect, inquire, suggest, elevate. So kind of making sure you're hitting those 4 points. Really, the idea behind the RISE model for giving feedback is that it'll keep a conversation going. So I think it's a pretty useful way to give feedback, to talk to people, to have a conversation, because it's really easy to just chime in and say, "Hey, great post. See you later. Hey, you like video games? I like video games too. Cool, let's be friends." Which is fine. I'm happy that you like the same video games and you're friends. But the idea is for there to be a discussion on the discussion board. If you just post and then that's the end of it, the conversation doesn't really go anywhere. So I'm looking for more a more engaged, kind of back and forth with that. So I'd say keep that in mind. Does that help, Michelle, answer the question? Ah, wonderful. Okay. So right, with our discussion boards, we're going to be answering these questions. So I realize it's a little bit confusing. The discussion board will house multiple things, or it has the potential to. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to house the weekly plan, but it can. Ramses, if you can watch the video afterwards. But the long and the short of the E3 assessment is take it, see what it has to say. Above and beyond that, that's really it. Take the assessment. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it. So, I'd really like to hear everyone, kind of chat about it in class. So, but take it. I think it's good to go into it with an open mind and without uh, too much of an idea of what to expect. I think it's useful and helpful. So I would recommend it. Um, so our discussion board are these 5 questions that you have in front of you. Describe an activity that you find fun. Keep it professional. So something that is, not inappropriate or illegal. I don't think I need to go too much further with that. Um, what do you enjoy most about the activity? And how would you talk to somebody else about it if you were describing it? So make sure that you're hitting all these points of the question. So you're describing an activity, you're telling me what you like most about that activity, and then how would you, kind of talk to one of your friends about if you're saying, hey, I think you should try this thing. Here's my, how I'm going to convince you that you ought to try it as well. Identify and define at least 2 concepts from the week 1 reading. So you're going to identify, you're going to tell me which ones, you're going to define them in your own words. 2 concepts from the reading. So kind of make sure you have those readings done, check them out, read them, pick 2 that you like. Again, I would pick one from each reading. That way, you're not getting an overlap. That way, you're not discussing 2 sub concepts within one overarching concept. And they provide an example of how these concepts tie into the activity that you described above. What I'll tell you about this, and where a lot of people will make a mistake, is they will just write one big long paragraph. I don't want one big long paragraph. There are 5 questions. The last one is upload a photo of you engaging in play. Obviously, I don't expect, you know, a, it's a picture, not a paragraph. But so there's four questions that require written response. I would like 4 separate paragraphs. If you wanna break those questions down into multiple paragraphs, you can. But if I receive anything less than 4 paragraphs, I will say, you didn't listen or follow the directions. Please redo this. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 4 separate paragraphs, one answering each question at least. So make sure that you're doing that. I think it's What I'd recommend and what I did in school was I would take the questions and I would post them back into my responses because I had a tendency, especially with questions like question one, where it's a three-part question. um, I would answer, one part or two parts of it, but a lot of times I would miss all the parts. So what I would do is I would go in and I would, I would repost this and I would say, okay, describe an activity that you find fun. And I would answer that immediately afterwards. And then I would move along and I'd say, what do you enjoy most about this activity? And say, oh, I like, skateboarding because it frees me up mentally and I, get to experience flow and it's great. And then, the last part, how would you talk to others about this activity? I'd say, hey, you know, I really like skateboarding. You seem like, you'd probably enjoy the same type of leisure activity as me. I think we, have a similar mindset. You want to give this a shot with me. It's a lot of fun. So make sure that you're answering all three parts. It's really easy to skip over them. It's easy to, leave stuff out. Please, please, please make sure you're not leaving things out. There's multiple questions within each one. Um, when I go back and look, I'll say, hey, it looks like you didn't answer part of this question. I'll probably ask you to elaborate on your next post. So just kind of keep that in mind. You can find all these questions inside activity 1.4, the discussion board activity. And we're going to be responding to 2 peers for the discussion board using the RISE model for giving feedback. So there should be 1 response to your peers about their weekly plan. If you want to, you could incorporate them all together. You could discuss their weekly plan and everything else, their discussion board. I'd be fine with that. If you made two posts total and you discussed kind of both concepts, you said, hey, here's what I think about your weekly plan, and here's what I think about your discussion board. That's fine. I don't want you all to be overtaxed on that front, but just make sure that you're responding to at least 2 people over those two topics. Uh, yeah, for the image, no, I'd want to see you having doing something fun. So upload an image of yourself engaging in play, whatever that looks like for you. If you want to, whatever you're doing for fun, take a picture of that or take a picture that represents that. What I'd ask is that you don't use stock images from the internet. If you don't, have if you're riding your bike, don't take a selfie while you're riding your bike. It's a terrible idea. But maybe take a picture of your bike and say, "Hey, this is my bike. I really love riding it. It's a lot of fun for me." Don't endanger yourself. Maybe get someone else to take a picture of you riding your bike, something like that. But whatever it is that is you engaging in play. Does that help? Awesome. Very cool. No problem. No problem. All right. So that gets us through. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the rubric at the bottom for how your discussion board will be graded. So keep this in mind. This is the breakdown. This is how I will be awarding points. Thoroughly addresses all of the questions and meets length requirements. So make sure that you've answered all the questions that were posed to you. If if you only answered one part of a 3-part question, you're not going to get full credit. Even if you've written lots and lots, plenty of if you've met the length requirement, you wrote a 6-sentence paragraph, that's great. But if you didn't answer all the parts of a multi-part question, I'm not going to give you full credit for it. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're answering all parts of the question. I'm not a big stickler for 6 sentences. If it's shorter than that, but you've answered the question thoroughly answered the question. I'm usually I'm pretty reasonable about that. I try my best to be fairly brief in what I say, and avoid superfluous language. Make sure you're answering the questions is really the takeaway I want you all to have. Carlos, do we have the answer? Do we have to answer the question on a separate file or on the same file with the weekly board? You would answer them all down here at the bottom. I'm sorry, yours will look a little bit different. When you go down, there's a post section and a feedback section. So what I want you to do is to write your answers to all of these questions in the post section. So if you scroll down, if you go into activity 1.4, you scroll down, there'll be two text boxes. One says post and one will say feedback. Write your answer in the post section. Please, please, please do not submit a Word file there. I want you to put text in the text box. If you need to write it up in a Word file to use spell check or whatever, that's fine. Copy and paste it from there and paste it into the box. So I should not receive any Word documents or any Pages documents or any Notepad documents in there. I only want to see text in the text box. Cool, wonderful. Make sure you've done your responses by Sunday night. I think that pretty much gets us up to speed, right? The last activity is the brain teaser, the quiz, the test, whatever you want to call it. Open book, open notes, open readings. Use your readings. Read the readings before you take the quiz. That's really the takeaway from that. Does anyone have any questions? If you don't have any questions, I really just wanted to have this meeting just so that I could go over all the integrative learning, make sure everyone was on the same page and knew what to expect. If you come up with a question later on, you have one, you can message it to me. I'm happy to hear from you. Let's see. Michelle, you're unmuted. What is your question?
So it's about the weekly plan.
Okay.
Okay. So we upload it in the integrative learning section or the discussion part 4.
You can upload it in either place.
Okay.
It's entirely up to you. In the future, in all weeks after this, it will be part of the discussion board. So it might be a good practice just to get into that habit now. So I'd say best practice is probably just to upload it with the discussion board. You can do what you want this week. You can either upload it in that activity specifically, or you can upload it in the discussion board. Either one is fine with me.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Do we submit the weekly plan every day or by Thursday? No, you submit one weekly plan anytime up to the Thursday deadline. I mean, you can submit it today if you want. I would recommend doing your whole weekly plan. I mean, plan your week out now, kind of have an idea of what your week's going to look like. I think that's really important to do. But yeah, you would just as long as it's submitted by Thursday, that's fine. But it's one submission. It's not like a daily thing. The weekly plan is submitted as a file. Yes. Sorry, I realized one is one I say submit words, and no, the weekly plan is you really, there is a way to submit it, but just submit a file. That's fine. You can take a screenshot and upload a screenshot of it. That would be really cool. That way, it would be there in your discussion post, and it would be easy to see. But don't worry about that. If it's easier for you to just submit the file, that's fine. I won't be upset about that. Yeah, as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to upload this. I'm going to make a YouTube video, and I will upload it to the integrative learning assignment right here. I'll show you where it'll be. So in activity 1.3, you can scroll down. It says place GTT link or archive here. That's where I'm going to place this video. So it will be there waiting for you. Yeah, I got a question. Do we enter Monday information in the weekly plan? Yes, please do. Um, Even if you didn't do anything, tell me what you wish you would have done. You should get an email after you complete the E3 assessment that has your results. So I would check the email that you used when you submitted the E3. Yep, no problem. Any other questions? If you have them, send them my way. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. I just wanted to make sure everyone was pretty clear on this stuff. We'll be together again tomorrow evening. You can ask me more questions then if you have them, or feel free to email me ahead of that. Whatever makes you happy. But that's all I had for you. I just want to make sure everybody was, fairly clear on the expectations and knew what to expect and knew what they should be submitting. So shoot your questions over if you have them. Otherwise, everybody have a great day. Thank you.